First up for you, some important news. Federal regulators have adopted new rules for the credit card industry over the last couple of weeks. Rules designed to shield consumers from increases in interest rates on existing account balances.
And among other things, the only problem that consumers are going to have, and I did not know this, is that you're going to have to wait until July of 2010 for these new rules to take effect. And joining us to talk more about that is Terri Murphy from the Women's Wisdom Network. Good morning.
You Merry Christmas, yes. Happy Kwanzaa, yes. Happy Hanukkah,
you made it through
good
the
December.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Stuck in Milwaukee for 2 days, okay? So we just thank you for coming back here where it's 60 degrees.
I know.
Maybe even 70 before the day is through.
And first, before we talk about credit specifically, let's tell you about in the new year, you are going to need more than ever good information, good solid information on a myriad of subjects, and womenswisdomnetwork.com is the place to go for that. Can I just say that? Do you mind?
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Because really, what Terri does is you've basically created a network where I can go and get information on any type of subject.
Anything for women in business and professional life. My goal was, if you couldn't afford to find and pay experts and consultants, how could we mentor other people through our relational and intellectual capital? And that's what I wanted to do. So I make it as ubiquitous as possible, put it on the net, both in podcasts and video and articles. So, for instance, if you needed information on why you need a good privacy statement, we've got the #1 lady in the country.
Right. So you could be in Dubuque, Iowa, looking at starting a business where that was important and get that. It was so cool. Credit. Big on your mind. You just did an interview on
I just interviewed the credit woman of the century. Her name is Jerry Detweiler. She not only has credit.com, but ultimatecredit.com, and she speaks English, which is very nice. And she really knows her stuff about credit. And boy, we have to pay attention.
In fact, you called me and you said, I cannot believe this. And this is a woman who knows a lot about everything. But this is, and I'm speaking of you, you're looking at me like, who? We are, shall I say, if we don't know this stuff about what our credit cards can do, we could be in serious trouble. Give us some examples.
It's imperative that we start being real conscious about our credit. And the reason is because, you know, we've had a robust economy for the last 18 years. People have used credit cards for good and bad reasons. The most important thing right now is we can't just like flip through our mail and throw away some of those things, because the very first thing is that they're raising rates. And it's even for people who have never been late, who've never abused it, who've never done anything wrong on their credit.
Or gone over limits or any of that.
And they're raising them. And they can do that indiscriminately because of the way the laws are written.
Don't they have to alert you before they do that?
Well, and that's the key. It does say when you sign up that at any given point they can do certain things. But lately what they've done is they've sent out these little bitty, hard mail. I mean, they'll send it hard mail, but there's a little notice, and you don't really read it. And it says, we will raise your rates. And if you don't approve of that, that's okay. You have the option to cancel. However, you have to pay off that card and you have to close the account.
Wow. And of course the print, I'm sure, is about
it's little bitty.
You have to get a jeweler's glass to be able to read it.
Before, I seem to remember that when you didn't like the interest rate on your credit card and you had good credit and you've been a long-serving customer, you could call them and say, hey, you know what, I don't like this rate. You're going to cut it or I'm going to kill the account. And they go, oh, no, we don't want to lose you. We'll lower the rate for you. Are they just like, no more?
Well, it's quite the reverse. For instance, one of the tips that we're going to give you today is if you have a credit line open that has been inactive, a lot of people just use 1 or 2 cards, but they have 3 or 4.
Right.
They will close those accounts, which cuts off your leverage ability, because that means you're stuck with the one that you have.
Right.
So what should you do? Should you run out and just charge dinner,
Actually,
on this card that maybe you don't really want to use, but just to keep some activity?
Jerry says, go out, buy gas, buy groceries, something you would normally buy, and then just pay it off, just to keep the activity there, because it gives you that leverage. Because in life, those of us that are in commission, those of us that get paid in certain bonuses, sometimes you have the time and not the money, and then you have the money, not the time. So you want to be able to give yourself that flexibility, but watch your credit statements. Just pay attention. See what's happening on your credit cards. We have to do that anyway because of identity theft.
Well, and you're talking about these new rules that are going to go into effect July of, 2010? 2010.
Boy, do they know how to help us or what?
They sure do. How is that going to protect us once that happens?
Well, that's the whole problem. That's why we have to pay attention. The other issue that you really got to pay attention to is your credit limits. Here's an example. So let's just say you have a $10,000 credit line, and you're up to about, say, $5,000.
Okay.
Not significantly bad. However, they may decide to cut how high you can have. So they may drop it to 8. This affects your FICO score.
Sure does.
And so
Oh,
suddenly,
because you owe more in proportion to
percentages.
Can they just drop it just like because
Apparently.
they want to drop it?
that's correct. They can decide that maybe they don't want to lend you that much credit.
And with the credit world tightening, are we at risk of seeing a lot more of that?
We're not sure. We're according to Jerry, and she's got a great podcast that we have on the network, so you can listen to it. She's about 7 or 8 minutes into what you need to pay attention to because we haven't. And so
Right.
more importantly today from today's program is let's pay attention. Let's read. Let's highlight what that rate is. Look at last month's and the months before. See what's happening because you're going to want some protection.
It's amazing how the interest rates on your home mortgage loans and probably your home equity loans are going way down, and the credit card rates are going way back up. That's
Boy, and
crazy.
you might not even realize it until you're suddenly wondering why your minimum payment is
Well, and it'll
$300
jump.
instead of $100.
Do we have that information on the screen? That web address that you told us was?
Women'sWisdomNetwork.com is where to find, and not just this subject, but all sorts of subjects.
Thank you so much. That's very powerful stuff. Keep us updated.
I will, and we also have good stuff on identity theft and
Boy, that's very timely.
It's right there on the screen.
We'll see you next month on Live at 9. Terry's
Thank
a
you.
regular contributor. That's your title.
All right.
Not much of a paycheck comes with that, but we'll talk.